It is a Friday afternoon, and we haven't done one of these in quite some time. So I've been really, really looking forward to catching up with you guys once again. And I'm sure, of course, you'll have missed me. Of course, absolutely. Today's episode, guys. Today's episode, we were just talking about it. Today's episode, it's a really good topic. It's something that you might not think ever to associate with actors, but you know what? It's such an important thing, because at the end of the day, people who are listening to this podcast, people who are working at the lab, and also, you know, you, Dennis, yourself, working actors, it's a job and it's a career, and you need to be able to make money and pay for things. And if you want to have a family and all that, then that's a whole nother story. But it's really important to look after your money. And as someone who was an actor, and then I sort of ventured into sort of understanding about philosophy and finance, I learned the best way that you can ever control your money is three things: not spending it, investing it, and then also saving money, marrying an accountant, or save money in your taxes. That's the way. Because the government are going to take a huge chunk of it. No matter where you are in the world, it is going to happen. And you have to be able to use that money that you make to your benefit. So this is going to be a great podcast. We have Peter, and next to him is his wife, Yolly, and she is the tax expert. She has worked with a lot of different actors, from actors who are supporting themselves to actors who are supporting a whole bunch of people.
Oh, she signed a confidentiality agreement. She can't say who they are.
No.
A-listers.
But I haven't signed a confidentiality agreement.
No, but still, we will be using pseudonyms. But
back in LA, she did some taxes for some very, very big names,
A-listers,
including Peter Kalos. Just
to name a few.
Just saying. All right.
So Dennis, I mean,
and by the way, real quick before we go on, look at this. This is Bill Nye. You all know him, right? The actor.
Yes.
He recently got interviewed, and someone said to him, "What would you tell a beginning actor? What advice?" And this is what he said: number one, take care of your taxes. Number two, drugs don't help creativity. And that's what he said.
Contrary.
But number one, he said, take care of your taxes. All right.
Well, you know, it's important, because you go into both of those answers that he actually gave can be you can go down two very different paths to think that you make money so you don't have to worry about money, or if you are an artist, then you can let go and experiment and things like that. But it's not the real truth, is it? It's not the real truth for either of them.
Correct. And two things I've learned, and I've heard Yolly talk about. One of them, she said once, if you can connect it to the fruit, you can deduct it. Meaning, if you're using fertilizer to grow an apple, then you can deduct it. And the other one was it's all about getting as close to the wall as you can, but not touching it. Meaning, deduct as many things you can, but don't actually cross the line. You know what I'm saying? Because I've heard we've heard many people in LA, you hear them make millions of dollars, and then they fall bankruptcy because they didn't take care of the taxes.
And there are two things in life, as they say in accountancy, that is guaranteed.
Sex and taxes.
Death and taxes. So we know we're not going to escape it even after you die, in case of US.
Well, I hope we don't escape it.
So why not do it the right way to begin with?
I am the worst example. I'm actually shocking, all right? But because my brain doesn't think like that, but I should start thinking like that. And having said that, most of Yolly's advice is based on the American tax system, because that's where she worked. There are
many similarities. Other than the tax laws, the rates, the tax rates, they're also different, and there are some nuances into what you can deduct and cannot. For one big example is entertainment. In the US, when you go out with the studio people to have a lunch or dinner and you're discussing a project, 50% of that bill is deductible, whereby in Australia, it's not deductible at all. So there are some nuances, but overall,
First of all, before we
it's
continue,
similar.
just so that people listening understand, by a tax deduction, for those that don't get it, if you make $1,000 and you don't get taxed on that $1,000, so you might save 10 or 20% of that value, correct?
Not quite.
Oh, what?
If you have a bill for $1,000, let's say you spend $1,000 in acting classes, and that is a tax deductible item. So let's say you made $10,000 as an income for the year, and throughout the year you only had $1,000 in coaching and classes. So you can deduct that. Instead of paying taxes on the $10,000, the gross amount, you ended up paying $9,000, the net amount.
Okay, so it's not just, see, I always thought it was, so if you if I am paying $1,000 for acting classes, I always thought that in that $1,000, that tax is what is the percentage that you can save. So if you get taxed $100 out of that $1,000, then you get a percentage of that $100 back. But is that wrong?
Well, it's a different way of thinking about it. But the simpler way for us, the way we were taught, it's about the tax, especially for actors or even a business. The tax is based on the net taxable income. So you have gross, you make 100 grand throughout the year, but yet you had to have direct expenses to incur that $100,000 as earned income. Therefore, all of those expenses have to be deductible from the top.
So if we go out for lunch and talk about project A, now we can deduct that lunch under project A.
For the US.
For the US,
50%
correct.
of the US.
50% of that value, right?
Yeah. Australia, not so direct. However, you know, we have production costs. They'll, yes, but yes.
So you used to be able to in the 80s. That's what led to those, you know, $10,000 lunches that would happen in the high end in Sydney. That got an end got put to that.
Yeah. And even the US is onto that as well. And that's why these receipts, they have to be documented properly. You know, you have to write behind it, who did you meet with? What's the name of the project? When do you anticipate the shoot? And you have to save that in a place where the ink will not be faded when the taxman knock in 7 years.
But that's impossible.
It's not impossible. You can save it in the clouds.
Dennis.
Okay, you can save it in the clouds.
The burden of proof.
Okay, you can save it in the clouds.
Is on you. Otherwise,
the burden of proof is on you.
Otherwise, they negate all of these expenditures, so they can throw away $5,000 of expenses. So whatever your tax rate is, that's the amount you owe. 5,000 times 30%. Let's say your tax rate, and that's what you end up paying the government as tax back, plus interest and penalties over the time. So it's really important when you have receipts, especially nowadays, it's easier. You can take a picture of the front and back and send it to the cloud. Exactly. So there is no excuse. It's a matter of keeping up with it though.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, Dennis, but I used to hold on to my receipts, and I used to be a bit of a junkie with it, because the way that I used to see it is that it was my business, and I wanted to get as much money as I can get back at the end of the year so I can go on a holiday. Yeah.
I think you are the best clients in my perspective. However, it's not beneficial for your pocketbook, because at the end of the year, you will bring me thousands and thousands of documents, which I have to look at each one to ensure that it is a viable business deduction.
So how do you prefer your clients to hand you their receipts?
So what I told my clients, the easy way, the greatest tip is that put all your expenses through your business card. So when you open a bank account, get a card, a debit card associated with that account. All expenditures related to your creative work, then you have to pass it through the card. At the end of the day, you should still keep your receipts. However, if you don't have your receipts and you're not, GST eligible, you keep your receipts. Let's say you don't have receipts, we can use your statements as substantiated document to prove your expenditures. But ultimately, you also have to keep your receipts, because some, if you're in Australia, for example, you have GST implications or whatnot.
And also, if you go to a petrol station, like I just did, I put petrol. The petrol is deductible, but the donuts I bought are not.
So you have to be able to split the bill as well.
Yeah.
Even though at the end you might take a different approach into
Right.
the expenditures for the automobiles, but that's a different story. But yes.
So a cars for actors, a cars deductible?
Well, yes and no, because it's about mileage. You're gonna have to track your mileage. You need a logbook to prove that every audition and stuff that are related to your acting activities, and not everything is deductible in terms of the mileage.
Give us a basic list. Acting classes, yes.
Acting classes, yes. Going to a show, going to work from home to a production, those are 100%. But going for auditions or not, those are the weird things in the law where there are some
Is that
tricks.
the same as America?
America
If you went for an audition?
If you went for an audition in the US, it is inclusive in your automobile expenditures.
Oh, right.
And it is deductible. However, Australia has a bit of, there's a bit of differences. But all of these items we're talking about now, once you take your paperwork to your tax person at year end, then we look at that tax law for that year, because the laws changes every year. And then we're able to extrapolate which is best for you, whether you have to take a mileage method that is given by the government already, or an actual method, which one is better for you. We just work it out based on the numbers.
So in terms of collecting all the information needs to be verified. I will say that 10 years ago when I was working as an actor, there were a few years where I made anything from $20,000 to $50,000 just in acting. And I saved receipts and I filed them and everything like that. But what I used to do with my accountant, and I don't know if this is illegal or not, but what I used to do is I used to file all my receipts, and then I used to create a spreadsheet, and I used to document and let her know how much the receipt was for all categories during this period of petrol spending.
Yeah.
And then all categories of dinners and lunches, and then all categories of costume purchases, all categories of books purchased, training spendings, even sometimes some holidays. I know that sounds strange, but I actually did a show which had an Indian theme, and I was going to India for a wedding. So I put the cost of the plane ticket to go to India as research. I can't remember if she accepted it or not, or how much she did accept, or how much tax I got back from that specific item. But I remember that's what I did.
I used to do a similar thing. I used to add up things myself so that the accountant didn't have to do it when I used to do it that way.
Because the accountant will charge you for their time.
That's right. The bookkeeping from us, it's so much more expensive versus either you get a bookkeeper that's $30 an hour, or you do it on a weekly basis yourself, and going back about car travel for actors. If you are shooting a film and you're working, let's say, all year long, and most of the time though they pay for your transport, so whatever you get reimbursed for or an allowance for, you're not able to double dip. So those are automatically non-deductible because you've been reimbursed by the production company or by the TV show that you're on. So I just wanted to clarify. So
let's assume that I'm doing a show in Geelong, right? And they take me there.
Who's there?
The production company.
Yeah.
Does me driving down there, is that deductible?
They're taking you there.
No, if I'm driving there.
If you're driving there for a meeting or for work?
For the actual job.
Then it would be deductible.
If they keep me there, they pay a hotel room, but they don't pay my meal. Is my meal deductible?
That's highly unlikely, but that's a gray area because you had to eat regardless, especially if it's dinner. They should be paying you. Those are scenarios that are not realistic because if you're working on a film, they're going to feed you that day.
Okay,
so automatically the food is out of the question. Your dinner is on you. We don't care. And that's not deductible, to answer your question.
Yeah.
And dinner is your own meal.
Okay, so if you're on tour with the show, you get per diems for food and etc.
Yes.
So you can't claim the food.
No.
Any food.
Well, there are different ways of claiming it. Yes and no. Yes, you can in that the allowance amount that they've given you, let's say $200. So you have $200 other income, and then you minus $200 meals and incidentals. So it's a wash. Or you don't report it at all. So it's depending on how your payment certificate shows it. If they show the allowance, then you have to match the expenditures to net it out to zero.
Okay.
But this is all for the purpose of trying to get some money back.
That's right.
Okay. So
to maximize your return or minimize your tax debt.
Minimize your bill, because I have some PAYG, like everything I do with the Australian Shakespeare Company is PAYG, but most of the other stuff I do is not. So so often it's not about what you get back, it's about minimizing what you're going to have to pay.
Exactly. It's either or.
Yeah, so I went through a situation where I was acting, and then for 10, 15 years or so, and then I needed to buy a house. And the trouble was that I kept on having a business that was a negative return, year in and year out, because I would claim. So like I said, if I earned 50 grand, I would try and claim all the way up to as close as 50 as I could, so I could get the money back. So if I take it,
the tax man's going to be, how are you living? How are you alive?
Exactly.
But they never did.
Zero income, and we didn't give you
They never
benefits.
did inquire. They never did inquire. Mind you, I had credit card debt as well.
I think you had a tax accountant that had gone through the garbage and picked out the relevant elements.
Because I also know a lot of tax accountants, they tell you something, but they actually don't do, or they say yes, but they don't exactly tell you what ends up on the tax return.
Yeah, they don't teach their clients. They just do it.
No, they don't teach the clients. They give you this document, which is about 21 pages long. And of course, as an actor, you look, geez, that's long. And you're just like, I'm not going to read all that. So you just look at the end and sign it.
I agree. I mean, that's one of the things that I've changed in my work. I just give you an organizer that's relevant to your situation. If it's just a P&L, it's just a one sheet. Show me the summary of what you have earned and expended. And I don't even need to see your receipts, because I have that trust that you would have saved everything, because if they come and audit, the audit will be on you. Plus you have to pay an accountant.
A lot of people don't understand that. When people get audited, they turn to the accountant and they say it's your fault.
Oh, no, not at all.
And it's actually the person's fault.
Yes. In America, especially, once you sign the return, it is to say that you've read it, you've agreed with all the numbers in there that you have provided, and we also have a tax deck, and it's built in the software to say that we have not audited your return, because we're not auditors. We take you for face value for the information you give us. Yeah, so you are subject to an audit if the number is incorrect. Correct.
Yeah, well, I put everything through MYOB, and I do my own profit and loss, so that everything's on me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so amazing that you do that. So what? So you actually have an account.
I had a much bigger business, still a small business. So I mean, for what I do now, MYOB is like using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. But I used to have one of my day jobs was singing telegrams, and then I bought the company, but there was also lots of other entertainment, and there was balloon decoration and delivery. So still small business, but I was turning over around 500K a year at the peak. So that's turnover. So yeah, I've downsized, but I'm used to MYOB, so I still use it for everything. And I've still got a lot of different sources of income that I invoice for. So it's handy.
So is it a matter of just going to MYOB and just opening an account and following the steps?
Pretty much. Look, if you've got it set up right, you just enter everything in there and it'll do everything for you. But the biggest thing about doing your profit and loss is just making sure you've entered everything right and you've not put in, like, for instance, if you're claiming a percentage of your rent, making sure you've you've got to do a floor plan and work out the exact percentage that your office takes up, and then making sure you're
I do
putting your
remember
whole
that.
rent through, as you know, things like that. You've got to make sure everything's correct. But the good thing is that, you know, you plug the numbers in right, and it will produce whatever sort of reports you want for whatever information you want. It's really handy that way.
Yeah.
But what are the
But-
chances of them coming to your house and measuring your room?
Well, no, they don't have to do that because it's all public information now. So it's a matter of knowing the address, the lot number. They work with the surveyors and they'll know exactly the square footage. So believe me, I used to be an auditor. We've gone deep. So
That's what I've learned. Yoli always tells me, she says, we know the answer. We just pretend like we don't.
Yes.
Especially in today's world, it's all digital. She goes, we know the answer. We just want to see. So if it's 21 and you put down 19, that you just raised a red flag.
Yeah, but also there is a certain level of materiality. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very French. Materiality.
Yeah.
Meaning, you know, so if it's little, if you rubbing yourself against the line, that's fine. Only when you cross that, then, you know, you're subject to a knock at your door, you know.
I think that's the.
And
Yeah,
one
sorry.
thing, sorry, Dennis, just to say, also, it's good to have your app, your accounting software, if you will, to plug in your numbers. However, the pitfall that most people fall into is that they don't know what is deductible and what not. So they put everything in, including their personal stuff. And so then it's really hard because you have to go to the general ledger line by line and identify which one are business and which one are personal. So yeah. But I'm sure Dennis is not doing that because he's very.
I do have a business account that's separate from my personal account, so that makes it easier. Just reconcile everything
That's
with the
right.
business
I'm
account.
completely screwed because if someone came and said you're audited, I'd say, I have no clue what I'm doing. Tax. I just
that would
give
be
it
the
over to
same.
my
I would
wife.
have been
Don't
the
worry
same.
about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I'll go to prison. I'll go to
Yeah.
prison. She'll be like, don't worry about it. But Your Honor, I didn't do the tax return. She did. And they'll go, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Well, Pete, I was in the same basket. I used to try and be so naive, or maybe just not want to think about it. I thought that I was doing enough by doing the spreadsheet and saving the receipts and filing them. But I didn't know what was happening on the other end. I never really asked the tax
Right.
agent. I gave them the numbers. I gave them the spreadsheet. She asked me, is it legit? It's in an email saying this is all legit.
Yes, you know why it's in an email, right? Because
Because it's written. yeah.
record keeping. Yeah,
Exactly. So it's record keeping. And then I used to just let her just do everything. And she would ask me the questions about space and are you in the same house and things like that. And I would answer, but I had no idea why I was answering. I had no idea. I didn't know that she was probably creating a tax deduction on my room, which was an office or something like that. Because it was always associated with computers and working from a computer. That sort of...
She should have educated you a little bit, tell you at least what was going on.
yeah,
just
she
so you
probably
know-
did, but I probably didn't listen.
Care.
Yeah, well, that was it. I didn't really listen. As long as I got some money back,
That's all that. Yes,
that's
many
all. That was my goal. Until
Yoli
I needed to buy
she
a
says
house. and
many
I was
clients
fucked.
think like that.
Yeah.
And she goes, they shouldn't, because they don't know that they could have got more money back if they paid attention. You know what I'm saying? Here's a quick example I want to ask you.
Yeah.
If I'm working on project A, all right, we'll
Yeah.
call it project A, and we incur some expenses, like I go buy some uniforms and I make a short film called Project A.
Yeah.
And that project cost me $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
The second year I make another project B, I put 10 grand, I didn't make any money.
Yeah.
I've now forked out 15 grand of my money.
Yeah.
Can I deduct that loss anyway?
Yes.
Where?
So the way it is, the first year that you would file, because then you would file as a loss.
Right?
For the US, there is an election that you can make to carry the losses forward. And I think that is the same with Australia as well. So year one, you have a loss, negative 5,000.
Right.
Year two, you have another loss, 10,000. So those two are following up. Now in year three, you have a negative 15,000.
Right.
So year three is your year. Spielberg called, you sold that script.
Right.
It is
100
produced.
grand. 100 grand. At that stage, I wouldn't give a shit about the taxes.
No, that's when you care about the taxes. No, that's when you care the most because the taxman has a bigger chunk than before, right? So year three, you want to file desperately. Let's say your net income, taxable income is 500,000 for the sake of the exercise, 500,000. Then we back out the previous loss of 15,000.
Right.
And so you pay tax on 485.
Okay.
So you don't lose anything. So you start again.
How long can I hold that?
Indefinitely until the business is alive.
Oh.
Yeah. If you have a production company, you carry that loss until
I've got a shitload of I've got a shitload of those. Right.
Well, you keep carrying it forward.
Okay.
You could show all those losses to St. Peter at the pearly gates.
So if you never make Steven Spielberg give you 100 grand, they just sit there.
Well, the government is not stupid. In the US, they give you 5 years to make a profit because they know every startup business takes a while to get off the ground. Right. So if after 5 years you're still making a loss, then they make a decision for you. It's a hobby, honey. I'm sorry to say it's a hobby and not a career.
So here's the deal.
Therefore,
now. If someone
that's harsh.
Yeah, it is harsh. That's America. And I've learned this from her. I'll give you an example. If someone lost 15 grand, right? And I now made 100 grand selling potatoes at the market, that 15 grand does not count as a loss. That income must be in the same field, correct?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Yeah, not necessarily. You can have them cross over now because it's still business and it's still you.
Right. Okay,
it depends on the structure you set up.
Right.
So yeah, there are room to play there. You'll get that.
That's a tip if you are incorporating as a business, which some even actors do as a it's good for taxes. But when you set up your business, you've got to say what the business is for and make that as broad as possible. Put everything you can think of in there.
Yeah, so that you have wiggle room. Like you're just an artist, for example, perfect for actors. They can act, they can be visual artists, they can do different type of artwork that classifies.
They can be bullshit artists.
Voila.
So imagine you're talking to a complete idiot. Why should someone incorporate their acting business?
Well, if you want to, first of all, if you're serious about it, you want to have it longevity and you want to go all the way, yes, it's worth it. Also, in America, there are different structures. Not only you are incorporated, there is LLCs. If you are under a certain threshold, if your net worth is over over 250,000, then we recommend that you have an S corp. And if you become, a million, 5 million, then you have a C corp. So there are ways to, the US structure system is more complex than Australia. You can have a company and you have a trustee company. That's it. You're ready to go, And if you were very small, you can have a family trust.
And do those S corp and whatever the other word was, did they minimize your tax?
Oh yes, it's all tax, better tax havens. I want to say haven, but better tax structures that minimize your tax debt.
Okay.
Those structures in the US, but for Australia, people, actors that are first starting out normally just start as a, trading ads, and then the moment they get their first film, they can set up a trust or even a company. Some, they know they're confident that you might as well start a company because the cost is the same. It's just a bit more administration, but it's worth it. That's what I would say.
So coming back to the, in the US, after 5 years, they say it's a hobby. That's harsh. It's like, we're all used to our parents saying, when are you going to give up this hobby? And your wife going, when are you going to give up this hobby? But then the tax man comes to you and goes, when are you going to give up this hobby? It's like it's everybody.
They just say, please put that on hold. You can continue doing it until you make a profit. Then we'll revisit those expenditures.
So let's talk about someone without naming any names. Why do some of your ex-rich multi-million clients end up filing bankruptcy? Where did they go wrong?
Well, overspending, and really not earning more. A lot of people are rich on paper, but they're not truly rich.
So they make 20
So
million on the first check because Steve, and then they make nothing.
exactly.
And they don't understand that concept.
Yeah, and yet by that they already have heaps of liabilities. They've got 5 houses all over the place, so their liabilities already. Their net worth is on the negative. However, you're not seeing that because they're probably doing it country by country. So when you're looking at the U.S. balance sheet for them, oh, they look great. They just got their own 20 million. You know, they have a little shack that's worth 5 million. So they're looking really nice. And then they move to Spain. They're upside down. They went to England, they're upside down. And when you combine the in totality of their global income and expenditures, they actually are at a loss. And so, and what they do, rich people, is that they move money around to adjust to their lifestyle, wherever they're going, you know, knowing that they are at a negative already, that their net worth is in.
By the way, you can tell the level of clients she used to have when she said they had a $5 million shack. All right, that's the level. That's the level of clients. The shack costs $5 million. You know,
well, I was wondering within Australia, and Dennis, you could probably put some light on this because I've never actually owned a company. I've ran a sole proprietor as an ABN, and I never necessarily got to the point of acting as a company. Can you guys talk a little bit about that? And maybe Dennis,
I'm not incorporated. I've never had that. So I was a partnership and now I'm a sole trader with an ABN. I don't have an ACN.
What about the Singing Telegraph Company?
Yeah, no, sole trader ABN.
Sole trader ABN.
No,
so
what's good for Australia?
Yeah, what's good for Australia, Yolly?
Well, what I would say, contrary to the US, it's not so black and white. America said, you know, the moment you make this amount of money, that structure is better for you, you know. Whereas in Australia, I found that you have to kind of have a look at financial planning, if you will, a 5-year plan, and see what you want to do in life. And so I look at each client individually. Once we had that chat, for example, someone comes in and say, you know what, I just landed a big role and this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. I say straight out to them, open up a real company. A company that where will receive all that money. Let's say it's a $500,000 contract that will receive all that money, and then the entity will pay you as an employee. Set it up under a payroll so that you get the minimum amount of money you need to live on without having a big tax bill. So that needs to be worked out between each client individually, and then whatever is left, you know, we should have a strategy to either invest that money somewhere whereby it doesn't sit in the bank account as a net profit being reported, because there is a tax on your reserves as well. So that's what I would advise clients. But again, it's a baby step. You have to analyze it every year to see what actually comes in, and then we move like that on a yearly basis. That's what I would tell my clients.
Quick question.
Did I answer the question?
Yes. If I was an American actor, I live in LA and I come to Australia and do a film here, right? All my deductions in Australia are deductible, correct?
You're from LA.
I'm from LA. I fly here.
Yeah.
Everything I do.
Everything is picked up by the company.
And I get taxed in America and in Australia?
No. Oh, that happened to our friend. We had a friend recently here.
Because what if it was the opposite? What if an Australian friend, what if an Australian living here got a job in America? Who would get taxed more? How does that work?
They will be taxed in the US because that's where the money is derived from. America will be paying them. When they file their tax returns here in Australia, they would get a tax credit, meaning they've already paid tax in a foreign country of whatever amount USD, convert that sucker into AUD, and they will give you that credit against that income. So the income that you've earned in America is not double tax per se.
Yeah, and that seems quite simple because I mean the reality is that you can't be in two places at once. So if you're an actor and you are working in America for 12 months with an American company, then technically you're away from Australia. So Australia just need to be aware that you are away and during that period. And the reality is that you're probably going to get that question for most of your life when with dealing with tax. I still get questions, did I live in London for 2 years, which had nothing to do with acting, just only to do with taxes. And yeah, I still have to, what's the word when you have to confess?
You have to prove.
Confess.
I feel like I'm being arrested. No, you have to prove that you were not truly there. A quick answer for you to that is your passports. Keep all your expired passports.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Hello, you ATO, you want to know where I was? I will send you a copy, please. You scan.
Declare. That's the word I was looking for, when you have to declare.
Declare.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say,
So that's the answer. I was in London when I was just putting all that cash in my pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
just in London.
Vanuatu.
I was in
for
London.
2 years.
Exactly.
That's
So
exactly right.
That's why there's no tax statements for 2001 and 2002.
You could also say what Yolly's been doing, yes and no. Every time they say, what's the question then? Well, yes and no. So if they ask, were you in London? You're going to go, well, yes and no. Right. Okay. That's how you answer the question. Really quickly, we did have a friend who came down here and worked. What was the issue with her?
The issue was her, even though they taxed her in Australia, she was told she needed to file an Australian return in order to get some of that tax back. And at the end of the day, it wasn't true. She couldn't file a return. What we ended up doing is all the tax she paid here in Australia, when she went home, she claimed them against the money that she earned here. And that in effect, it resulted in the same thing.
Is that a lot easier to do these days because of the internet and just computers in general?
Well, no, I think it's a lot easier because the production companies that are foreigners coming here, they don't know the system here. So the actors are lost and they're telling them different stories, and it took her forever to get the pay slips or, you know, a payment certificate or whatnot, payment summary. So it's that problem that they're having, not knowing where they're coming from. And instead of hiring a accounting company that are used to working in Australia, so we bring all the knowledge to us. No, they rather bring their own people, which is understandable, saving money in the budget. And yeah, they end up pissing everybody off, the crew. I'm not working for this company anymore. It's crap, you know.
I know someone, by the way, real quickly, he worked on Inglorious Bastards, the film. And he got paid 20 grand for 3 days worth of work. They flew him to Germany. By the time his paycheck ended up in his pocket, he had $2,700. They paid him 20 grand. His agent and manager took 10% each, right? So that brought it down to 16.
Yeah.
Germany kept 7 grand for a non-resident tax.
Taxes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that brought it down to 9. Okay. And then by the time his accountant and other bullshit people, and then he paid taxes, he ended up with 2,700.
Yeah. And to get that money would be in him filing his US return. You'll get that back.
So what we're saying is that the tax office are the real inglorious bastards.
Exactly. You know, I still
We're
get
not saying
reminded.
those words specifically, but you get the gist.
Yeah, I still get reminded that if I make $1, it's not all mine. By the way, and I can say this. Yes, am I in trouble?
Yeah.
Look at that response.
When you earn $1, it's only 60 cents. That's yours because you've got GST and assuming your tax bracket is 30%.
I'm learning that now.
Every dollar.
I started learning that yesterday.
And you put that away in a different account. You don't even look at it, you know?
But some of us don't have that discipline.
Because then you're in trouble at the end of the year. You have a big tax debt and you're like, shit, how am I going to pay that? Your stress level goes up and all that shit.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. So let's talk about discipline in terms of process. Okay. So for the example, for all the actors out there that are listening to all this and thinking, fuck you, tax, and fuck you, tax man. Okay. You can do that. You can say that. But at the end of the day, the reality is the tax man's always going to win. So what are the processes that we need to beat the tax man?
I'm the perfect example. I completely fuck up and I'm learning. But yes, it helps to pay attention. And what's the discipline? What should they do? They come home, they have a receipt, they put it where?
Well, now with your phone, I would say either you do it a daily or a weekly practice, just like meditation. You just have to keep doing it until you train the muscle, and then it becomes like, second nature. So what I would say, keep your receipts, separate your expenditures between business and non-business, and make sure you do your bookkeeping, I would say every week.
Every week.
Those are the three tips I would give to actors coming into this industry.
So if we're looking at bookkeeping, realistically, you could set aside half an hour a weekend. Is that fair enough to say? Half an hour a weekend?
How busy you are, my man. If you are a big time actor, no,
is that a lot?
You might need a full day. You might need an assistant.
If you're a big time actor, get a bookkeeper.
Yeah, tell you what, I'm not big time, but I got a cleaner, and now I feel like I'm big time. So if I have an assistant, I'm fully big time.
Hey, I have an accountant. Look at that.
You got an accountant. I got a cleaner. I have made it. We've made it. We have made it.
And I have an accountant.
I want a cleaner.
Yeah. So those are the three things you got to do. You got to look after your documents. You got to make sure that who, what, where, when, why, time, all that. And
also Australia has GST, so you can deduct every time if you're paying GST, every time you pay GST, you can deduct that.
Well, yes, assuming you're an actor earning over 75,000, that all goes under the three tips. Keeping your receipts, which are very important. And with that, you'll be able to journalize each transaction and pick out the receipts if they are or no GST. And then you can run your report like lovely Dennis over here does in my hub. You run your report at the end of the quarter and you pay.
So here's my question now. We're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm paying for Zoom.
Yeah.
Is that Zoom bill deductible?
That Zoom bill is deductible under the lab.
And I don't hold a receipt, but because I pay it out of the lab's card, you see
we capture that in the card. So if we don't have a receipt, as I stated before, you can use those statements. Yeah.
Nice.
there we go. So it sounds like we've had three things, but there's actually one more thing. Since we were all talking about this, there is actually four things.
Ooh.
There is four things. And I'm
it.
pretty sure you're all going to agree with me.
Yes.
Make sure you have a good tax accountant.
You're the man.
You're the man. Yes.
Oh, the man.
Yes.
So that's very, very important. Especially if you're someone like me or Pete, Dennis,
Yeah.
you sound like you're really organized, but
I'm
if
not.
you're someone if you're someone like me or Pete, you really need a good tax accountant.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, they're going to know the rules. They're going to know the laws. As long as you're being honest with them, then you're doing your job. Record keeping, bookkeeping,
And people don't
and being
understand
honest.
this, but I've seen her and heard her talk now for decades. And people go, well, why should I pay you X amount of dollars? And she says, because that I can reduce your tax bill.
I'll save
And
you money.
I'll save you money
And an audit.
and an audit.
Yeah, that's something people should keep in mind as well, when they're deciding whether to do it themselves or get an accountant, is you are less likely to be audited if it comes through an accountant.
Yeah.
And
that's
once you get
100%.
audited, especially the IRS, that red flag, they're
On
on
the blacklist
you're on a blacklist for
for
how
a
long?
decade.
For a decade. Yeah.
Meaning they watch everything you lodge by at least 3 different entities. I mean, departments.
After that red flag.
After, yeah, to make sure you're not doing anything illegal or,
After that.
So
Wow.
it's not what to be on that list. Just keep your receipts. That's key, and separate. Keep charging your business expenditures with your business card. Don't mix it up. And hire a good accountant.
He's a
Like
great
myself.
example. He's a great example. I'm just thinking of great examples. When we finish this, if we go inside and have a glass of champagne, that's not deductible,
Of
correct?
course not.
Okay. If we were having a glass of champagne now, would that be deductible?
No,
Why not?
because it's not required to do work. Alcohol is not a requirement.
Oh,
are you sure?
It is.
I can't claim my meth. But one important tip, I
Did you
think,
get a receipt
is
for them
that
your meth?
if you do get paid cash for anything, just buy your groceries, buy your petrol. Don't let that hit a bank account. That's very important.
Yes.
Better coming from you, Dennis.
I
Better
think-
coming
yeah,
from
she-
you.
I think that's official tax law. If the federal treasurer doesn't know about it, it's not taxable income. Isn't
Dennis,
that right?
She can't say that by law. She's smart. She knows where she can go. She can't say that by law. We can.
Although they're saying the same thing in the cryptocurrency world, FYI.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I guess crypto's a whole different ball game
Oh,
now.
it's a
good
whole
discussion.
different conversation.
So one thing we are learning, by the way, from the tax world is because most things are done digitally now, as I said before, they actually know most of the information before you even turn up and lie to them. So they do have a lot of information these days.
I think that's a good thing about the Australian system as well, because as you say, America is a bit fucked up. It's like the tax man's like, tell me how much you made and what you spent, and you're like, well, I think it's this, but do you know? Yeah, the taxman's like, yeah, we know exactly, and you're like, well, tell me, you tell me, and I'll just declare that. No, we're not going to tell you.
No.
Yes.
You have to tell us.
America's
If
like
you
that,
get
right?
it wrong, but it's not like that here. Like it, I mean, especially if you're PAYG, it's like now it's all online. It's on the tax portal, and they kind of fill it out for you.
Yes.
So they're not as, the Australian tax office isn't quite as gotcha as the IRS is.
Yes, I agree.
Who's more brutal?
Oh, the US for sure. We pay more taxes. It's it's more complex than it needs to be. And I'm an accountant saying that.
Australians think they pay more taxes, but I say no, you
Oh
don't.
no, you guys don't have the state level. There are two taxes in the US, federal and state.
I always say that America.
And if
pays
you're
more
rich, there
taxes.
is a third level. There is a percentage for the
The
millionaires.
rich tax people.
Well, they should be for them.
They're rich for the tax. Not that
Fuck
we
'em.
feel bad about that, I think.
Yeah, I know about those different sort of taxes in America because I follow NBA basketball, and when you're looking at how much they earn, and particularly if you are, if you're in New York or something like that, then the state tax can sometimes not hurt you as much, or if you go down to, or maybe it does hurt you so much, being in New York or in California. I can't remember which one, but yeah, if you go to somewhere like Phoenix, Arizona, I'm pretty sure that the state taxes there are really, really low, and that's why players enjoy going there, because Arizona tax is just so much different. And I think it's the same with Texas too, because I remember the San Antonio Spurs.
I agree. However, if you want to move to Arizona or Texas, you want to be in the plush areas, because when you're moving there, you're not thinking about taxes. You just want somewhere safe. With these guns everywhere, you're like, damn, where am I meant to go? So around
Yolly,
the big cities, even though they do have more tax, or every state, they have different tax rates. Yeah.
So we touched on this before, and I've been getting a little bit into this as well, just sort of like recreational reading. And I've accidentally started reading some how to make money books, because I don't know how to. But they've ended up being American. So they're talking about making sure that you've got a good, 401k, and then you're investing your money back into your 401k. In Australia, it's a little bit different. Is there some other investment that you would suggest? Because you touched on before that, you make your money and then you get your tax back, and then you should get to a point when you're investing that money, because I think that's really, really important. I think investment should be taught in schools.
I agree.
That if you're earning $10, that maybe you should spend $5 and try and invest another $5 to make another 20, in X amount of years time. And
let me write that down.
Yeah, so you should. This is something that I've just started learning. But in Australia, what should we do? Because we don't necessarily have a 401k.
Yeah. So in Australia, they allow you to contribute, I think 25,000. It could be changed now, to your super, and it can be your own after tax contribution. And a lot of my clients, they are doing that currently. Rich clients have already capitalized on that, because I think there is a threshold for that. So that's it for them. But what they've done is that they invest in the stock market, or even real estate. I'm finding real estate is big now. Every client that have a couple dollars, except especially in the US, where you can get a flat for 50, 60,000, like a single family residence, and literally get 20% return on it. So a lot of people are doing that now, accumulating wealth, because especially in property, you can hold it and wait for the market as it does its dance. So a lot of my clients are doing that. Even if they're small, they're now going to venture out. I have Aussies that have ventured out and gone and bought properties in the US and they've never been. So what I'm seeing also, artists are doing that as a way to, especially if it's an attractive investment like duplexes, they're nice. You can get one for 80,000 and you get like literally 200% back. So you can pay the mortgage with one unit and keep the other unit as a way income to live on, disposable income. So a lot of actors that are smart, I won't say a lot, I think I have 2 that have done this, where they made some money, their first gig, they bought this property. And now in between gigs, they have income, rental income coming from that source. So that's what I'd say to people: invest. Cryptocurrency is a good one if you are into crypto, if you understand it, because as much as you can earn the money quickly, it's very rigid in terms of its comparison to cash. Yes, you can spend it, but it's very complex. You need a Binance wallet with all that stuff. But some people are into that. I have one geek. He's a electronical, I don't want to say that. He's an IT professional, and he's into cryptocurrency now, and he's doing very well. So
yeah. Well, look, if you know what you're doing, I mean, it comes down to education, and it comes down to making sure that you've got professionals around you. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, Yolly, what's the best way for them to reach out to you via email or socials?
Yes. So my website is ytknco.com. Once you go there, you'll find my website and you can send me an email and I'll respond to that.
Say it again, YTK.
That's the best way.
We can probably put that in the show notes, yeah?
Yeah, we're definitely going to put it in the show notes.
Oh, thank you so much. ytknco.com. And we will respond to your call within 24 to 48 hours. And
well, that's excellent. Dennis, do you have a show? Do you Savage in Limbo? Is that on this weekend?
Savage in Limbo opened last night.
How was it?
Went very well. It's on for 2 weeks. I think. Look for tickets. I think the season might be sold out by the time this comes out. If you look for All Sorts, just Google All Sorts Productions Savage in Limbo if you're in Melbourne. And there might be a few tickets left, but it's selling really well. So we'll see how we go. Yeah,
it looks fantastic. I had all intentions of getting down there. Believe it or not, last week, gentlemen, I couldn't even walk. I actually hurt my back that I couldn't even walk. So I'm I'm amazed to be able to just be sitting here and having a conversation.
But I did wanted to say one more thing, actually.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Just a quick plug. We are looking, the charity, we have also a charity called Feeding Young Minds, and we are making ethnic films with the people, for the people, by the people. So we are looking for ethnic stories. So if you have something great you want to share with us, reach out. You guys will see the email below. And and we'll connect with you and have a discussion. We might be able to produce your story.
There you go. You'll be able to get in touch with Yolly via the email in the show notes. Check out Savage Limbo, and maybe there might be a spare ticket. I did see last week there was a Friday and Saturday that were full, and I thought to myself, by the time I'm going to be able to get tickets, this thing is all going to be full. Because I don't get to Melbourne very often, Dennis, which is a bit of a shame, but I'd love to see that show. There's a lot of
if it turns out you're here and they're sold out, let me know and I should be able to hook you up.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Excellent. Thanks, Dennis. Okay, guys.
Tax-free.
Yes.
Tax-free. Lovely.
Okay,
Well, this
guys.
has been Peter Kalos podcast. We've been talking actors and taxes, which has been a very interesting conversation with Yolly. If you do want to get in touch with Yolly for either tax purposes or to assist with the charity, check out the show notes below. Dennis Manahan, it's always good to see you. Peter Kalos, thank you. Yolly,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.